Today I will be showing you how you can create your own MCP server within n8n, and I will also be explaining why you should use an MCP server instead of just calling one of your other workflows with a call node. Before we had any MCP, if you wanted to call a workflow, then we had to use this call node that we see in here, and this will then trigger a other workflow. So then it would, for example, trigger this calendar workflow with the input of this trigger, then your AI agent, and then with all of the tools connected to your AI agent. But one very big downside of this is that your AI agent needs to have a very good system prompt that knows when to use all of these tools and how to use it. But if you do not have a very good system prompt for your AI agent, what then could happen is that your AI agent would, for example, call a whole other tool, which would give you a whole other output when you didn't even want that output. So then your AI agent is just not reliable anymore if you do not have a very good system prompt, and that is where the MCP comes in. So with the MCP, everything is linked to one MCP server, and in this MCP server, if we look into it, we see that there is no system prompt attached to it. And this is because the MCP uses its brain to figure out which tool it has to use and which action has to be executed. So if we would, for example, say, can you create an event for tomorrow at 7 p.m., then this message will get sent to this MCP server, and then this MCP server is going to look at all of the tools that are attached to it. So here we have the create an event with attendee, delete event, get all events, update event, and create events. And then it's going to look at what kind of actions can be done with all of these tools, and then it's going to find the right tool for your query, and then it's going to give you the output that you wanted. So it's much more reliable than when you are using this old method when you had to put a whole system message of when it should use one tool. The only thing that you now have to do when you have connected your MCP server is that you give your AI agent a good instruction of when it should use this MCP server. So what you, for example, just could do in this AI agent, we have use the Google Calendar tool for actions that need to be done within the calendar. So then it knows I have to use this MCP Google Calendar tool when I have to do some actions within the Google Calendar. So with the MCP server, you are able to connect all kinds of tools, but you are not only limited to connecting tools from one app, such as Google Calendar, your Gmail, but you can also connect workflows. So what you could do for this MCP server is connecting a calendar workflow, an email workflow, a to-do workflow, and then a create LinkedIn post workflow. So on an MCP server, you can build a whole system that has access to all kinds of different actions. Okay, so now that you know what an MCP is and why you should use it, I will now show you how you can create your own MCP. So what you will first do is press on this plus here, and then you will type in MCP. Then here you have the MCP server trigger, and this is the one that you will need. So we'll press on this, and then here you have your MCP server trigger with the test URL and the production URL, but I will come back to that later. Then you have your authentication and the path. The path can be adapted to everything you want. So for example, you could call it tutorial. So then you have tutorial, and it will be entered behind your URL. And the authentication is just a extra security step that you can add if you're using this MCP for production. So now that you have the MCP server, you can now connect all of the tools that you would like to it. So for this demo purpose, we are just going to connect Google Calendar. So we'll type in calendar, then we have Google Calendar tool. You will press on this, and here you have all of the actions. So I will, for example, do a create event. They will just press it on from AI, and the calendar is just going to be your calendar. That is set, and then you can put it down here. So now we are going to connect the other tool. So we'll just copy this one, paste it in here, connect it to the MCP server, and then we're going to give it the other action. So the operation will now be delete, because we want to delete events, and then we're going to do the event ID on from AI, and then the delete tool is set up. We can connect two other tools, so we could, for example, do this. This will be the get event, so we'll do it on get many, and then we'll give it this from AI, and from AI. And then the last one would be updating events, so we're going to connect this to the MCP server, and then we'll do the operation on update, because now we want to update events, and then we're going to do event ID from AI. And then we have all of the tools connected to the MCP server, and now what we have to do is create the AI agent that is going to send the data to the MCP server. So what we'll do is press on the plus here, then we will connect your trigger first, so we'll do add other trigger. We'll do the trigger on chat message. You can just put it in here, and then you are going to connect the AI agent to it. So we're going to add an AI agent, and for the AI agent we have to first connect our chat model to it. So you will press on the plus, connect your chat model, what you would like. So I will just do OpenAI, leave it on GPT 4.1 mini. For the AI agent we're also going to connect some memory to it. So here you have all of the memories, but for this demo we are just going to use simple memory. And now we have the tool left, and this tool is also the MCP, but now you have the MCP client that you will need. So this MCP client is basically going to call the MCP server, and then the MCP server is going to do all of the actions within your tools. And as we can see, the MCP client is turned red, and this is because we haven't added an endpoint to it, and the endpoint can be found in the MCP server. So if you go back in the MCP server, we have the test URL and the production URL, and this is going to be the endpoint of your MCP client. So the difference between a test URL and a production URL is basically if you're just testing and your workflow isn't active, then you're going to use the test URL, and if your workflow is active and you are using it, then you're going to use the production URL. So for this demo purpose, we are just going to use the production URL. So you will switch to the tab production, and you will copy the URL, you will go back to your MCP client, and you will paste the URL behind your endpoint. And then your MCP client is set up. But there are some options in your MCP client that you could do. And this is, for example, the authentication. And as I just said, the authentication is just an extra security step or a password that you can add to your MCP client or your MCP server. And you could, for example, use this if you are using this MCP client on an online server. One very nice feature of n8n their MCP is that you can include and exclude tools. And this is very nice because what you could do is make an MCP server with, for example, all of the Google Calendar actions that you could do. And what you can then do is in this MCP client, select on tools, and then you can just include the tools that you would like. So if you would, for example, have a workflow where you only want to use these 4 tools, but you have entered 10 tools to your MCP server, then you could just select these 4 tools in your MCP client, and then your AI agent has only access to these 4 tools. So how you will do this is by going to the tab Tools to Include. Then here you have 3 options. So you have the option All, Select, and All Accept. And the Select and All Accept are basically the same. So we will now just press on Select, and then you can include all of the tools that you would like. So I could, for example, do the Updating event and the Get Many event. And then my MCP client only has access to these 2 events. Okay, so now we'll do a quick demo of how this MCP will work in a real life scenario. But one thing that we have to do is give the AI agent a system message of when it should use the MCP client. And for this, we will first give the MCP client a normal name. So we'll just say calendar. Now that you gave your MCP client a name, we will now go in the AI agent, and then we will make a system message. And in this system message, you're just going to type in a simple line. And in this line, you will say, use the calendar tool for actions that needs to be done within the calendar. Okay, and if you have entered a system message in your AI agent, then everything is set up. So now we can type in the open chat, can you create a meeting for today at 7 p.m? Okay, so here I said, can you create a calendar event with meeting for today at 7 p.m? Then we will send the message, then it will go over the AI agent, and then it will send it to the calendar MCP client. And then the event will be made in our calendar. So let's take a look in our Google Calendar. Okay, so we are in a Google Calendar, and as we can see, the event meeting has been created. This was the tutorial on how you can create your own MCP client and server within n8n, and why you should use MCP servers instead of just calling your workflows with a call node. If you like this video, then do not forget to like and subscribe. And if you have a question, then leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video.